All right, my friend, if you are a multi-passionate entrepreneur, a multi-passionate woman who wants a hustle-free life and wants to have a lot of fun, you are going to love this Inspired Living episode with Angie Lee. Angie is a former college and corporate dropout who started her blog in her dorm room and her podcast in her closet. Fast forward to now millions of downloads and owning a multi-8-figure wellness brand. She is here to show you that you can have it all, just maybe not all at the same time. And in this episode, she has me say a word that I have never said before on camera in my entire life. We talk about owning your weird. We talk about ready is a lie. How many times have you said to yourself, I'm not ready? I really want to do this. I know this is what I'm called to do. I'm just not ready yet. All right, well, get ready for a really inspiring episode. Grab your notes, get plugged in, and learn what it takes to show up as your most authentic self in this episode with Angie Lee. Angie Lee. Good Lord, girl. I am so excited to have you, motivator, ADHD, right? Owner of Soul CBD, multi-passionate. And I love what I've been listening to you about lately, which is so much about owning your weird and start before you're ready. And when I heard that, I was like, my audience needs some Angie Lee. So welcome to the show.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Those are my two favorite things to talk about, especially owning your weird, because I feel like it's difficult. It's hard to own your weird, but once you do, you are free. So
yeah. It is hard to own your normal. You know what I mean? Like it's hard just to show up. And the reason why, Angie, I was super excited to have you on the show, and we were talking about this before we went live here, is that like my average audience is women over 40. Maybe they've left corporate. They've had this idea of like building a business and really making a big impact in the world. They didn't grow up with the camera in front of their face. Like the thought of a poop joke like would never happen in their wildest dreams. Like they're just owning their weird sounds so hard because it's hard just to show up. And I know that even though like you are so like you're beautiful, you're vivacious, you're young, like you had trouble with it too. So take me back. You've had, a very successful company. You've just launched the new Soul CBD, which I'm excited to talk to you about. You're on a quest for other things in your life, but like take us back to Angie before she was the comedic, poop joke teller, weird, like just most authentic version of yourself.
I love that we're talking about poop. It's, you know what? We're all human.
Which I can't believe. I don't think in my 46 years I've ever said that word on camera, ever in my life. So thank you, Angie, for bringing that out in me.
It's like the most human thing there is, right? I mean, it's one of the top 5 normal things we all do, yet it's like, why is it weird to talk about? But when I started my blog at 19, I would be lying if I said I wasn't always weird. I was always the weird kid growing up. I was always comedic. I've always loved comedy and scripts and watching stand up. And so that's always been a huge part of who I am, is bringing comedy into life. I am one of those people where I'm a 7 on the Enneagram. So if it's not fun, I'm not doing it. Like I'm very inspired by fun and joy and creativity and weirdness. But I suppressed that for a bit because when I came onto the space, in the wellness space and the marketing space, a lot of people are very polished. They're very serious. They're acting like they're news reporters on their videos. They're like, hello, today's tips are, and I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? Because that's not me, but I'll fake it because I guess it's what you have to do. So from 20 to 23, I'm grateful that I got messy and put myself out there. But a large part of my personal brand in the beginning was me not fully faking it, but pretending I was somebody I wasn't. And if anybody listening has done that in any capacity of your life, you know that it's one of the most exhausting things in the world. I always say inauthenticity is exhausting and eventually it catches up to you. You can only fake it for so long unless you genuinely are an actor. And I didn't sign up to be an actor. I just started sharing my life. And I had a blog.
But even if you're an actor, that's still hard. Like you're constantly in character all the time. And I don't think that's not authentic. I don't think you can act your way through life and it will start feeling inauthentic, I think, in some way too, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've always thought that. I've always wondered the mental state and the mental health of actors in Hollywood because they're
Yeah.
pretending to be people like these intense method actors who are really in it
Yes.
for months or years. And I'm like, that must really mess with their psyche because it's not healthy to pretend you're depressed for 8 months if you're not, but you have to for the role. And
Yeah.
so or even not depressed, it could be just anybody that you're not. And so I did suppress it for a bit because I felt like the people who were ahead of me in my space were polished. That's the only word I can think of. They were very
Yeah, I
polished, very
totally get that. I
and a
think
lot of
people
them still
can
are.
see that. Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, I think that that's what we think we need to be, and it really is who do I need to show up as so people will like me, so people will follow me. And coming from hosting, I remember watching my videos back, going, I need to stop doing that. And it's so funny. My husband Michael, I'll be doing like a live in the car or something. He's like, "You sound so hosty." I'm like, "No, I don't. I don't sound hosty," because I had to work really hard on breaking that because I did do that for so long. And just like you feel like I need to show up and I need to say everything right. And it's hello and welcome to the show today. And again, no one resonates with that. So what was the clincher for you? I mean, what was that moment where you said, you know what? I'm not going to try to show up as someone that I'm not. Like, was there like an aha for you or a tipping point there?
Yeah, I remember it was a sequence of emails and I was 4 or 5 years in. I had the blog, I had the podcast, and it was going great, but there was this sense of something is missing and there's a part of me that I'm just not sharing. And I was trying to be like the other girls in my space because they were successful. So I thought if I do what they're doing, I'll continue to be successful, or this is the secret. When in reality, it's quite the opposite, especially in the online space now. If you follow what everybody else is doing and you look like her,
Yeah.
you're just white noise. And so, but at the time, again, I'm 24 years old. I'm just still in the comparisonitis trap. I'm feeling like I need to be somebody who I'm not. So I'm suppressing my weird. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm not going to swear. I'm not going to say, poop. I'm not going to say, call me your tits. I'm not going to say, cheese balls, what the cheese balls I always say. So eventually one day, I think it was my ex at the time. He was like, what if you just sent out an email and you said, what the cheese balls? Like, what if you just started being this person that I see who's here in front of me? What if you were
Yeah.
her? And I was like, all right, we'll see. And so I started creating some content with the attitude of if they hate it, they hate it. I'll just go do something else. If not, and if they love it, they love it. We'll see. I just kind of had like a F it attitude. I just didn't care. And
Yeah.
it's funny because I went to school. Well, before I quit college, before I dropped out, I went for broadcast journalism. So I wanted
Yeah.
to be
Okay.
Couric. I wanted to talk about the weather and the news. And now I couldn't want any opposite
No,
job of
thank
that.
you.
But
No, thank you.
they
Yes.
train you to be very polished and take out the filler words. And it's a training that gets there's some great things to that because it teaches you how to be very eloquent, but at the same
Yeah.
time, it also takes away the raw, awkward humanness that makes
Personality.
you
Yeah.
relatable and lovable. So I had to slowly start using words that weren't super polished. And I just started sharing little parts of me that were weird. And immediately I saw this spike in my followers, my
Yeah.
engagement. People started emailing me saying, oh my gosh, you're so weird too. Oh my gosh, that's so cool that you're weird. And I think one of the biggest things that I've had to overcome, and I have a tattoo of an and sign, an ampersand on my wrist, because this is so prevalent in so many areas of life, is I was under the impression that you are successful or you're super weird and you can't be both. And that is
Mm.
something that I want women to realize is I'm super unfiltered. If you came over to my house, you'd be like, what the heck? This chick is crazy. She's weird. I say the weirdest shit. I love doing skits. I mean, some of it's inappropriate. I mean, I'm out there. Right. And I'm
Yeah.
also somebody who can teach marketing and I understand human psychology and I make good money. So I don't think those have to be mutually exclusive. And
Mhm.
I didn't see any other women doing that, showing that they're crazy and unapologetic. And they also have a great job and they are intelligent. And I just feel like you can be both. And so
Yes,
I
it's
had
like
to
giving
break
yourself
that
permission,
weird.
right? You don't
Yeah.
have to be like super amazing girl boss, but like not be fun or be weird or whatever it is. And I think I was reading something that you're like, I'm 50% this and 50% this, and yet no one talks about that. We just are always like, I'm super successful, or I'm really good at this, but you're leaving out that whole side of you.
Yeah. And I don't know why I had that fallacy that they were mutually exclusive, that, in order to be successful and make great money, I had to be serious and wear suits on stage and wear high heels and be this person that I wasn't. When in reality, when I go speak now or I host my events, I'm in a crop top and jeans and it's just who I am. And by being fully who I am, it attracted women who also want to just be who they are. And it attracted
Hmm.
a similar community of people who actually didn't really like that either. They were like, when is the
Yes.
jig up? Who's going to talk about that? I don't actually wear that. I don't actually say that. And
Yeah.
so what I do now with my content is my intention is, what would I say to one of my best girlfriends? How would I text her? How would I voice her? What would I say to her? And that's who I try to be on video, because if not, it's kind of like, what are you doing? I didn't sign up to be an actress. Right.
Yeah.
So, and then
Do you ever get scared or worried, or does it bother you when you have trolls or people who say things, or people who say you're not, what was it? There's not enough personal development or whatever it was that, like the messages that people have, you're not professional enough or whatever it is that people kind of put on you. How do you deal with criticism? I think that's a good question for my audience.
yeah, in full honesty, it's the hardest part of my job that I'm still working on. And I wish that I was a shaman, messiah, life coach right now who could give you all of the answers and I'd give you an inspirational quote to make it go away. But the reality is it sucks and it's really
Yeah.
hard. And I have a therapist for it. I have a breathwork teacher for it. It's the hardest part of my job because I'm human. Of course, there's a little bit of a people pleaser in me. I think people who say they don't care are lying. I do. I just
Mhm.
think it's part of being human. It's the tribe mentality. And so that has been really hard, but I'm at the best place I've ever been with it as I get older, as I mature, as I
Yeah.
realize that for every 5,000 girls who love it and DM me like, oh my gosh, I feel like you're my best friend. This is so, I resonate. There's that outweighs the one girl who's like, this is not funny, and I'm like, dude,
Right.
then how do you live life?
Go
Do you go to
away.
comedy shows? Like, how do you live
Yeah.
life? Take the stick out of your butt. So
Yeah.
I think for me, I really had to realize like I'm doing a lot of inner work around releasing that and letting that go and realizing that it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. And if you signed up to have impact in any capacity, whether that's education, entertainment, I signed up for this. And so I have to also realize that with that comes criticism. It's just part of the job.
Thousand
And
percent.
it's
Yep.
hard though. It's so hard because you want to write back like, dude, it's a joke. How do you not know it's a
Right.
joke?
Yeah. Or you want to go cry or, just
Yeah.
whatever. Because you're right. I mean, as long as you have a pulse, you're going to feel it. But I think it's really important because the question I get so much is I'm afraid to be judged. What if someone doesn't like me? And I'm like, you know what? It's none of your business what people think about you. You've got to be more committed to serving that one person. And one of the things that I love that you said, Angie, is like you're saying, how would I talk to my best friend? Like, am I showing up? Am I being authentic? Am I, the voice is, and then, but people are responding to you saying, I feel like you're my best friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that tells you that what you're doing is right, because I say so much state elicits state, like how you show up is how I feel. And so if you're consistent and congruent, you're going to attract the right people, and the wrong people, send them on their way. Bless and release.
Yeah. There's billions of people to follow on the internet, literally billions. And so it's not my job to get everybody and their grandma Sue to follow me. That used to be my intention because I thought it's an ego game. Get more followers and you'll be happier. It's such
Yeah.
BS. And now I'm like, you know what? I would, if I have a tribe of even 200,000 or whatever, 300,000 women who just totally get it. They have a great sense of humor. They understand the sarcasm. They understand self-deprecation. They also want a little sprinkle of self-improvement. Like if they are like me, if it's a girl that I would hang out with in person, that's fine. That's all I need. I don't really want millions of people just for the
The sake of
vanity. Like,
millions.
what's the point? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny. You're like 300,000 people would be great. And someone in my audience is like, I'd like three. I'd
Yeah.
like 300 people. And you know what? It starts with one. That's just it. When you reach that person, it starts with one. And I was just talking to someone else this morning about, one light can reach thousands of people. So start with just showing up who you most want to be and be consistent and congruent with that. And one of the things that you share, Angie, is that you have ADHD and that, you have, some anxiety and anxiousness. What made you share that? What was the thing that you're like, you know what? I'm going to start talking about this. Because for some people they'd be like, I don't want to share. I think especially as we get older, again, kind of going into that, I need to be perfect. No one can see my imperfections. You really just put them out there like, hey, this is something I struggle with. Come join me if you struggle with it too.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember feeling like it was something I wasn't going to share, but to be honest, I've been doing this for 11 years now, sharing my life in a public way, you could say. And so you get to the point where you don't really care as much anymore in the most beautiful way. I mean that in the
Yeah.
best way. Like you care
Yeah.
so deeply that you don't care. So anytime there's something that I'm like, oh, this is something I'm struggling with, I wonder if anybody else is. Yeah, probably. And so
Probably.
I got a brain scan at Dr. Amen, which confirmed it. I always kind of knew, but that really confirmed it. And then sharing that, it just started to spread. And now I wake up every day to women who are like, hey, this resonated with me so deeply, or my son or my daughter. And you have no idea how much it helped me to realize that I'm not broken. And so
Oh,
usually
so
immediately
good.
once I get the first message of resonance that confirms that this was helpful to somebody, then I just keep sharing it openly. And what's there to be embarrassed about? I think some of the most successful creative humans have ADHD. So I'm not embarrassed about it. I don't care. you know?
Yeah, no, I love it though, because again, it's like that thing that we're so scared to share is the thing that actually is going to connect you to
Yes.
your audience, to your people, that allow people to see possibility. So much in branding, Angie, I talk about, be the guide, not the hero. And so when
Yeah.
you're able to guide them through your own journey, your own hero's journey, they can see themselves in it too. And that's where business grows. Now, you've had a lot of success early on. In fact, I was watching some of your videos around your events. Girl, first of all, why am I not at them? Number
I
one.
know.
Number two, you got a lot of people in a room before this whole COVID thing hit. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about some of the marketing principles and things that you did early on that got you to a place where you're doing multiple seven figures at a really young age.
Yeah. Oh,
And
I miss,
congratulations, by the
I
way.
miss
That's
Pays to Be
really
Brave a
amazing.
little bit. Oh, you're so sweet.
Yeah.
I miss Pays to Be Brave and then I don't miss Pays to Be Brave. It's like that was so cool. And everyone sees the highlight reel where it's like cool music and everyone's dancing. But what they don't see is like a year of planning, a year of marketing,
Right? Yes.
$260,000 overhead. Like nobody sees that. They just see like,
Yeah.
ooh, the
The
cool
dance
promo
party.
video.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm over here like, I'm ready to lose my mind. I was so excited for a vacation after. I'm like, I love you people, but like it was almost like a wedding, but even more intense. It's like
Yeah.
just there were so many parts I loved and so much I didn't. So I'm in a season now of, I mean, I've had a few years now to think about it, but I'm really assessing if and when I did that, if I was to do that again, what would it look like? And because
Hmm.
I don't know, I'm all about like ease now. I'm like, what will bring me the most peace and ease? I don't really need a ton of stress in my life. So
Yeah, it's like
you know,
again, like the
so
highlight reel everyone sees on social. You
yeah,
don't realize how much work goes into
yeah,
like creating those moments sometimes. It's
yeah.
like it looks so glamorous and so easy, but you're right, you're throwing a big event, you're about ready to jump off a bridge,
I'm
because
like,
of
oh my
all.
gosh, I'm so tired. Yeah, to get thousands of people in a live room, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna fart around here, you
That
guys.
is not easy.
It's not an easy feat. You first, I believe, should build an audience virtually who can show up for you, whether that is webinars, whether that is you are doing lives, just showing that there is an engaged audience who wants this. So I waited a
Mm,
long time. I didn't just start hosting live events and expecting thousands of people to show up. I waited a very long time. I built the podcast. I built the audience that trusted me before I expected them to get on a plane and come see me at an event and come experience this experience. And so a lot of it was, and this is what a lot of my marketing is community. I'm trying to think of the word for this. Um, it's almost like grassroots, but the community is spreading for me, spreading the word
yeah.
for me. So
Yeah.
I don't try to sell things. My community sells things for me because they're so in love with the product or the service. And this is the same mentality I have with Soul. I'm like, listen, you're going to love this so much that you're going to tell your sister and your aunt and your grandma. So I don't have to do the work because what you'll learn in marketing is Susan, who's my ideal avatar or customer, she can sell it better than I can because she's going to go tell
Mm,
her friend who's now 2 degrees of separation away from me, but now she's only one from Susan. So it's interesting. That's really the mentality I used with the event is we did a lot of affiliate marketing. We did a lot of incentives if they shared or brought a friend. And so it was very gritty and it was I marketed for a very long time, social proof videos, talking about it pretty much every single day for 12 months. So when people message me and they're like, hey, I
yeah.
want to put on an event and I'm going to talk about it for 6 days. What do you think? I'm like, girl, yeah, I talked
Yeah.
about this shit for a year and they're like, weren't you kind of sick of it by the end? And you're like, yeah, kind of like
Yeah.
marketing sometimes is monotonous. It doesn't mean it still can't be fun in the way that you do it, but it was a lot of the same messaging over because to have people get on a plane and go to an event, it's so much more difficult of a sale than a course.
For sure.
So for
And
me, that's
yeah,
what I
and
had to
now that
do.
we're in this virtual landscape where everything's online and you can do amazing events and you can have incredible results and just stay right here. And I love that you said that because it's so easy, Angie, to look at other people's stuff and go, I'm not getting there quick enough. And I say 1,000 times over, it's like impatience kills dreams more than anything else. It's not talent, it's not skill. It's like you just want it so fast because you think that that event filled itself in 6 days, right? You think that you got to 300,000 followers overnight. And so when it comes to your marketing, and you said it can kind of feel redundant a little bit. And so can we talk about that for a minute? When it comes to growing your business, how do you make your own marketing interesting? How do you fall in love with putting yourself out there every day, coming up with new ideas? Because I know for my client, they really struggle with that.
Yeah. I think we're in a time right now where you, yes, create content for the ideal avatar, your dream customer, but also create content that you would consume and that you find
Mm-hmm.
interesting. And so I found that there was this white space in the market where I didn't feel like a lot of people were teaching marketing in a super fun, weird, unfiltered way. So I was like, I'm going to do it then. I'm going to create what I wish existed. I'm going to create what I would consume myself, because if I'm similar to my listener or my follower, then she's going to like this. She'll think this is funny. She'll think this is valuable or educational. So I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times if you are similar to your avatar, it's important to say, would I even read this? Is this interesting to me, or is this valuable to me? If not, I don't post it. I don't share it. Everything goes through the filter of education, entertainment, or evoking some sort of action. Always. I'm very, very meticulous about that. Is this going to make them laugh? Is it going to make them think? Is it going to make them share it? If not, I don't
Yep.
post it. And
So
so
good.
everything has intention, even if it doesn't look like it. It's like, okay, what is the intention of this piece of content? And I'm always thinking about making them laugh or making them think. And that's
Yeah.
kind of how I'm balancing those two a bit. But I do think that you do need to know who you're speaking to, obviously, because there is so many people on the internet now. So I do think that yes, you can have somewhat of a broader niche, but and have these specific products. But I think at the end of the day, it still is important to know who it is you're speaking to. So you're not just trying
It's
to,
vital. It's vital. I
yeah.
actually think when I'm working with my clients, I'm like, that's the most important thing, that you have 3 to 8 seconds to keep and capture my attention. And if I don't think you're talking to me, I'm going to go somewhere else. And so the two things you just talked about, Angie, was too like eliciting some sort of emotion with the person on the other side. And that's what really social is about. It's about engagement. It's about, creating some sort of emotional connection. And I think you do that really well. And I was reading something like how important niching down is. I actually think it's never been more important because there are a gazillion people online. There's so much quote noise. And I think the only way to stand out is to really get known for the thing that you do. And that doesn't mean that you can't be multi-passionate. I think that is the misnomer, is that, well, if I niche down, then I can't do all these other things. And I'm like, no, 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 no. You can niche down and still be multi-passionate. Can we talk a little bit about that? And then I want to know how far out you plan your content.
Mm, yeah. Ooh, these are
Mm.
juicy questions. I'm actually recording a podcast on this soon. Can you be multi-passionate and still niche down? Because people, here's the real deal. People are confused because they'll see my content and say, well, you've done events and you have a physical product line in the wellness space and you have a podcast and you're very multi-passionate. Angie, you're doing all of these different things. So how can you tell us to have a niche? First of all, I didn't do all of that overnight. I think it's important to know that, similar to layers of a cake, you start with your foundation, which is super niche, and then you can add different offers onto that.
Mm-hmm.
But you
Mm-hmm.
can't start with all of that overnight. That's exhausting. You're just going to burn out. It doesn't make sense. And so I do believe you can be multi-passionate, but you earn the right to go broad. And what I mean by this is, if you do start niche, slowly over time, you've built a trustworthy audience that they are able to ebb and flow with you a bit as you bring in different topics. But I wouldn't be, a life coach, a relationship coach meets a, you
Reiki
know,
healer, event planner. Yeah. And I,
yeah,
yeah, I have to say that again, because I think that is a really like juicy
yeah,
nugget here, is that you earn the right to go broad.
yeah,
Once you have a tribe and you have a community that loves you, it's so easy to say, oh my gosh, like I've been doing this, but we just launched a beauty line a year and a half ago. It took me 10 years to launch that beauty line because I had to earn the trust. I had to earn, the ability to do that. And I had to have the audience to sell it to,
yeah.
so it doesn't mean that you can't do all the things, but like you said, like what do you start with? And owning that right, like getting that right, I think is really awesome. All right, we're just gonna take a quick break from this and very amazing episode to share with you something that I am super excited about. For the first time ever, we are launching the Video Marketing Academy. If you know you need to be visible, if the thought of being on camera makes you a little nauseous, if you get confused with technology and what to say and how to say it, Video Marketing Academy is for you. We just opened our doors. We are so excited to roll this out and to help you make the impact and income you know you are here to make on the planet. If you want to learn more, go to videomarketingacademy.com. All right, let's head back into the interview.
Something that's not sexy to talk about, but it's super real is your job, your career is a selfless act. It's solving a problem in the market. I love Seth Godin. He's like my
I do
marketing
too. This is
guru.
marketing.
I mean,
It's so good, that book.
If he was on right now, he'd be like, dude, your job is to solve problems. Your job isn't to monetize every single one of your passions and hobbies.
That's
So
right.
I say this with love, and I've been in this space before, but I don't think you have to put the pressure on yourself to monetize horseback riding and scuba diving and life coaching and all of these things and try to shove them all into a business and then sell it. That's not the intention of a business. A business isn't just let me just sell myself, unless you are really a full-time influencer. If not, usually you're solving a problem. That's it. Keep it simple. What problem do you solve? I don't think you need to know what nail polish, your avatar Cindy wears and what car she drives. I think some of that's a little ridiculous, but you do need to know what problem you solve. And at the end of the day, business is selfless. It's serving a market. And so, yes, you can be multi-passionate, but making sure your offers are still really niche and you still have intentionality behind everything that you launch. So even if I am doing events and books and products and digital courses and podcasts and all these different streams of income and affiliate marketing, I'm paid by brands. Like I have a bunch of different streams going. They all have intention to them. So I think that's where being multi-passionate can work if you have help, if you have intention. But if you just come out trying to do it all, it's just going to be
exhausting.
a shit show.
Exhausting.
Oh, and the other question was really good. Oh, how much in advance do I?
Yes, plan out your content.
I am not a big scheduler because I find that, well, it's hard. So right now I have the next 3 post ideas in my phone, in my notes. And now I need to pair them with either a reel or a photo. And they're just hits of inspiration that I usually will get on a walk, working out. I'll go and write it really quick, or I'll voice myself the concept or the idea and then go into my laptop later and clean it up. But 9 out of 10, it's within that week. I'm never posting something that a month prior I thought of and mapped it out and I put it into a planner, Planoly or whatever. Like I'm so in the moment, passionate, creative, like, hey, this is what's on my mind right now. Is it on your mind? Let's talk about it. I don't like even my podcast team that I just brought on, they know, like, I don't want to record things a month in advance. Even like, I'm like, I don't know. People can do that. I just don't know. I like keeping it very, very relevant. So, but you do need to batch a little bit. So it's this weird pickle that I'm always in because for me, I like to just be in the moment with my audience so they can feel like they're in it.
It's relevant to them. Yeah, no, that makes total sense. So maybe like just 3 steps ahead, because I will say that for at least a lot of my audience, content and planning content and content creation can feel so overwhelming. Angie, do you do all your own content and do you have a team that supports you?
I do all my own content. Mm-hmm. I think you need to know what type of person you are too, right? This is really where self-awareness comes in. I'm very self-aware at this point. I think finally this year, I feel like I understand how I work, what works well, what doesn't with my brain. So if you're listening to this, you might be very different than me. And so you might be like, Angie, I'm type A, I'm left brain. I like to batch out 6 to 7 posts or episodes or whatever that might be. That works for me. Awesome. Whatever works for you, works for you. But for me, I'm right brain, I'm ADHD, I'm Enneagram 7. I'm like, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I give my
it's got to be quick. Yeah.
Yeah. I give my info in the most random places. And then I have to puke it out. Like I have to get it out because the thought of it being inside me and not sharing it it just kills me. So I have this like impulsivity that is my fuel. But if you're somebody who's totally the opposite, then
that's okay. Honor that too.
Yeah. There's no rules. Like my biggest thing is like, there's no rules actually. Whatever works for you and keeps you consistent and enjoying what you do and getting your results, then that's going to work. I know some podcasters who I've heard, they batch out like 4 months in advance. And I'm just like, how do you know what you're going to be passionate? I don't know. Like that's too weird to me. I don't want to sit and record for 19 hours for a week. I think everybody is so different with how they work and what season of life you're in based on how busy your schedule is. This is my full-time job. So if this wasn't my full-time job, which it wasn't in the beginning, absolutely. I'd be batching things more and I would be, planning things out more ahead. If I had to, if I only had 2 hours, every week or something to create all of this content.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I think the theme of this episode is like, just do you. And that seems so easy to do, but when you really have something that you're so excited and it means so much to you to share, that can be a really scary thing. And this need to be liked, that, the vanity metrics that we follow so closely, can really sabotage, I think, the greatest work we can do on the planet. Angie, you talk about seasons of life, and you are in a season of life now where success means something different to you than it did. Let's talk about that. I love that question of like, what does success look for you now versus what it was maybe a few years ago?
Yeah, it's so different, which I'm glad it's different. I mean, I think if we weren't evolving and changing, that would be really boring.
So boring. Yes.
Right. And when I started, I was 19. Like I'll be 32 in March. Like, do you think I have the same values? Like, no, I just wanted to make a crap load of money and I wanted to pay off my debt because I thought if I'm rich, I'll be happy. And I thought if I pay off my debt, my life will be set. And like, yeah, paying off debt was nice. Having financial freedom is nice, of course, right? I think money brings options and those options bring
Sure.
freedom. So I don't think that money is evil or anything like that. But I don't think that when you're 19, you're 20, you're kind of just like, whatever, I'll do whatever. And I'll just,
Whatever. Yes.
and you're not thinking about your longevity of your adrenals and your and your future and stuff. So yeah, I mean, obviously my
Yeah.
next stage of life will be a family and all these things that I'm going to care about more than my business. So I guess to be fully honest, my business is part of my life now. It's not my entire existence. And for a long time, that's all I
Mm.
did. I sleep, ate, breathed this brand, and I still do a lot. But honestly, like my life is so well balanced now. I have a great family. I have a great friend group. I love living life outside of all of this. This isn't my
Yeah.
life. And I don't want it to be my life anymore full time. It's what I do. It makes great money. It helps people. Awesome. I'm done. And then I shut off and I go, I want to live my life. I want to be like
Yep.
in the woods, a crunchy mom, home birthing in a bath with all my crunchy deodorants and salts. Like
Oh
I
my
want to go be
Lord.
like a hippie woman out in the woods. Like
Yeah.
I want to get away from the world. I want to go homestead. Like I don't need that. I don't even want to be on the internet really some days. So I think my vision now for my life is like work as minimal as possible. And but with yielding the best results I can and then
Yeah.
be done. And that used to not be the goal, but now I'm all about bringing my stress levels down and time freedom. Give me time freedom. I want like 2 things to do a day. That's it. I'm not a workhorse.
Yeah.
I actually
Yeah.
don't like working. I know I actually don't like working. I did for most of my 20s because I did. And I'm very creative. So that just happened to create this job, but I'm not a person who's like, let's put in a 12-hour
Go
day.
big or go home.
No, I'm
Yeah.
like, let me put 2 to 3 hours and be super efficient. And then I'm out. Like I'm done. Like I want to live my
Yeah.
life now because I sacrificed a lot of my 20s. I didn't have a huge social life. I didn't go out a lot. I didn't party. I didn't do these things. And I don't regret not partying, but I didn't do a lot of that. And so now in my 30s, I'm like, I don't want to.
Girl needs a break. Girl needs a break.
Yeah. And I
And I
feel like
think that
hustle culture
regardless,
does that to you.
hustle
So
culture does do that. And we
yeah.
all, I mean, you just hear so much, have a 6, a 7 figure business, and all those things are wonderful. And like you said, like money gives you options,
Yeah.
but money certainly doesn't give you peace. It doesn't bring you, internal joy and happiness and memories and moments that you're going to cherish the rest of your life. And, for me too, like the business has grown so much in the last couple of years. Like sometimes I just feel like we're doggy paddling so fast. And I have, a 2-year old at home, a 6-year old at home. I'm like, I need to be a good mom too. And I will say, I'm really proud of myself. Come 5 o'clock, I'm not down to 2 to 3 hours, Ange. I'm not there yet. But come 5 o'clock, I'm mom, and I shut it down and I get to go be with the kids. And no matter what stage you are in your life, to understand there is this quality that we're all trying to maintain when it comes to mental, physical, financial health. And I think that's an important thing to remember as we head into a new year full of new ideas and new things that we're launching. And speaking of launching, let's talk Soul CBD, girl. Tell us.
Oh man. First of all, thank God CBD is not a drug, my friends listening.
Yes, yes.
But it sadly is a taboo topic. And I'm very, very passionate, especially recently. I started microdosing psilocybin. And so I'm very passionate right now about plant medicine and how much it can heal your brain. And obviously I'm not the only one who's coming out talking about this, but
Yep.
obviously we know some people out there don't want it because follow the money trail, right? So big pharma
Yeah.
doesn't want us to be
Of course.
successful, which breaks my
Yeah.
heart because the amount of people that
Could
CBD and plant
benefit.
medicine has helped with anxiety, depressions, cancers, all of these things. It's so beautiful, these plants, what they do, but It's not obviously in some places legal and all these things, but I'm hoping in
Big
100 years.
Pharma says buy
Yeah,
over here, right?
I'm hoping
But
in 100 years when I re-listen this isn't the conversation, but you know, it's fascinating how much it can help you. So my brother, he's actually here right now. He was a professional athlete. And so he was taking it for pain management. And I
mm.
started taking it for anxiety. And same thing, the first time I did it, I was like, will this get me high? Oh my
Right.
gosh,
Well,
I don't
I'm
want
like
to get
saying, like,
high.
people are naive to what it is. And once you
Yeah.
learn that it's not a drug, and I didn't mean to
Yeah.
say that like
Oh
it's
yeah, no,
not a
I know.
drug,
People all say
right? But it's like you feel almost this taboo, like and a little bit of shame, but it's actually an amazing product for people.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so I immediately, my brother was like, no, it's CBD, not THC. THC is what gets you high. It's the hallucinogenic effect of cannabis. If you take that plant and you separate it, there's a part of the plant called CBD that has all the medicinal benefits of healing, anti-anxiety, helping you sleep, all of those beautiful things without any of the hallucinogenic effects. So ours is completely pure isolate. You will not get high. We promise you that. 100
People are a
zillion
little
percent.
disappointed now, Angie. I think they might be a little
Some people are
disappointed.
like, give me a little bit. I'm like, hey, some
Right.
people need it in their life. Okay. So no
No
judgment.
judgment. Yeah.
No judgment. Life's stressful. So then I started taking it, loved it. And then he was like, hey, should we start a business around this? And at the time I was doing coaching and all digital creator stuff, influencer marketing a little bit. And I always wanted a physical product. I love physical products. I like,
Yeah.
for me, my future is creating more physical products than it is courses. Like I just love the thought of somebody holding it in their kitchen and being like, wow, this is so pretty. And the label and the
I
all of
love it
that.
too. I do. I
But
totally
it
geek out
takes
over it. Yeah.
another headache and another lot more capital. And it's not as fun. Of course, you could put up right now and it'd make more money than initially a physical product line. So
Yeah.
I always wanted to create it. We had no idea what we were doing in the cannabis space. We put like 60 grand in, had no idea it would grow to what it is now. We've sold part of it. We have another part we're going to sell soon. So
Wow.
it's very, very exciting that we've built something that now I'm like, holy crap. Like this was just an idea a few years ago and Mike runs it. Mike's the CEO. I do not run the company. It's cute when people ask me if I do. I'm like, that's funny. Yeah. It's like a 90-hour a week job.
Yes.
No, I'm more of just the creative consultant. I come up with a lot of the products, names, colors, the visuals, everything creative is usually me when it comes to soul. But yeah, I love knowing that we're giving people something safe. I love
Mhm.
knowing that there's zero toxicity level and there's zero side effects. So you can't say that about even Advil. If I walk down the street right now and I go buy a bottle of Advil at CVS and I take the whole thing, I could die potentially, the whole thing. If you
Yeah.
drink a whole bottle of the tincture or you eat all the gummies, which you're going to want to because they're so yummy, you wouldn't die. Like you might just
Yeah.
get sleepy if anything, but you're not going to die. And that is really cool to me. That
Mhm.
as somebody who's obsessed with wellness, I'm like, that's awesome that there's something out there that can help people.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's obviously safe. And so, yeah, I'm excited for what we've done. We're coming out with new stuff and then we'll see where it goes before we sell it and then go from there. And I don't know, my next product would probably be like a crunchy baby diaper, something like Jessica Alba, honest, kind of like I love non-toxic beauty right now and like all that crunchy stuff. So
Yeah.
me and everyone else in the crunchy space. So we'll see. But I
The
don't know. It's a lot of
crunchy
work.
space.
It's a
Yeah.
lot
I
of
mean,
work.
anything that
Mike,
you do is so much work when you have this idea, especially a physical product, being that we launched the beauty line. Like, it's a lot of work. When you guys had this idea, like, what was the first thing that you did? I'm just so curious for people who are
yeah,
like, I want to launch something and I have no idea how. Like,
yeah.
did you do a ton of R&D? Did you go meet with someone, who was like growing, or like, how did you put the two together? Like, how did you start it?
Yeah, we went to literally farms in Kentucky. We flew to Kentucky and we met with farmers and suppliers because you need to first obviously get the product. And
Yeah.
then I remember we hired a guy who is in the space. We're, I guess, on paper competitors, even though it's a very collaborative space, the CBD space. And we paid him for consulting calls because he was a few years ahead of us. So we were like, hey, teach us everything because this space is very volatile. There's things you can and can't do and da da da. So he helped us a lot. We were like, where do we start? Okay, we need a website. Okay, how do we do e-commerce? Okay, how do we make sure we can sell it? What is our merchant processor because it's CBD? Okay, we need the product. Okay, what do the labels look like? Okay, we're on a
Yeah.
budget in the beginning. We didn't have the funds in the beginning, so it's like this janky little label that I don't know. It was okay, but I always say "ready as a lie," so it's like that was the epitome of "ready as a lie." It was like just this label that Mike was like, "Yeah, I like the ocean, so let's put waves on it." I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense." So we just put like these weird waves and this weird ugly font, and now it's like super upgraded, but yeah, we just started and we had our very first customer. And then it was like, it just kept growing. And at first it started with just my audience. I was like, okay, I already have an audience. So we know at least
Yeah.
we'll get to 1 million. So we got to our first million and we're like, okay, so this works. People like it. It's helping people. And then from there, now it's just exploded into ads and we have affiliates, and it's not just my audience anymore, but it started
Right.
with that little bubble of people who just trusted me. And they're like, hey, if you're taking this, I'll take it. Having no idea what it was.
Right? Like I'll do whatever she's doing. And this
I'm
is
like, you have no
again
idea
where
what this
you
is.
learn, where you like gain the right, right? The privilege to say, "Hey, like this is awesome." And people trust you.
Yeah.
People trust you. And Angie, you said something that I love so much, like ready is a lie. If
Yeah.
there's one thing I hear, I don't care what age, what background, it's I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I'm not ready to launch my thing. I'm not ready to start the business. I'm not ready to do video. I'm not. What do you say to those people, Angie, who say I'm not ready?
Yeah. Oh, there's so much. But I think that coming to terms with the fact that life is short, and I think that can sound morbid, but I think it's actually a beautiful thing to have a relationship with, is realizing that usually you're going to regret the things you didn't do. So I'm really big on what is going to be more painful, trying it, maybe looking stupid, falling on my face, maybe it sucks, maybe I lost some money, or being 90 years old and I'm like, why didn't I try that thing? Right. So
Yeah.
that like keeps me up at night. So I'm always like, I'd rather try and it suck than to always wonder. And the reality of life is there is no permission slip. There's nobody coming and knocking on your door who's going to say, all right, you're ready. You're great. You're certified.
Now's your time.
Yeah, you're smart
Yes.
enough, whatever enough. You go do it. There is no day. You have to elect yourself. And so ultimately, the only way you are going to learn is through the action. And so it's like with Soul, it wasn't like, okay, somebody hands us zillions of dollars and gives us this blueprint and then we build a brand. It was like, hey, let's start scrappy, figure this out. And ultimately we learned more then. But without taking the first step, you're not gonna be able to get to the 10th step. So I'm just a
Yes.
huge fan of throw something at the wall, try something, have fun with it. I just ironically bringing like comedy back into this, I don't take life very seriously. And that actually allows me to be more courageous. And I think the
Mm.
problem is people take life so seriously. And so they're limiting themselves from taking action. But me, I'm like, let's go. Want to try that? Let's go. Let's have fun. Let's see if it works. And people
What's
see it
the
at
worst
first.
that
And I'm
can
like, I just
happen?
don't take life seriously.
Yeah. Well, it's also that it's not just taking life seriously, but really
Yeah.
asking yourself the question, like, really, what is the worst thing that can happen?
Yes. And usually it's not like literally we went to the worst with Soul. I'm like, all right, we put $60,000 in. He's like, okay, either we're never going to see this $60,000 ever again in our lives, where you still have funds coming in from your brand. I still have stuff from mine. So we're actually in a very great situation that people would die to be in. Let's say we go, I don't know, we go to the worst. We sleep in mom's basement on the couch. Sure. Okay, whatever. Then we get off the couch. Like we went to the worst of it. We're like,
Yeah.
mom's pretty cool. Mom can cook. So honestly, it's not the
We're going to
worst.
be okay.
We're gonna be
Yes.
good. And then he said, or we end up building this to, an 8-figure brand one day and we're gonna cash out and you're never gonna, you know what I mean? You're gonna be done. And I was
Yeah.
like, let's try
Let's go
it.
with that one. Let's go with
And
that
so,
one.
I mean, and I think there's a middle ground too. There's a level of like, there's things I've tried that like kind of did well for a bit and then kind of sucked. And then even events, people think those make money. Events don't make money. They don't make
Yeah.
a lot. They're not a money maker. So it's like, okay, that part of that was good. Part of that was sucky. So I think there's also middle ground of like, it's not either, oh, it's super successful or you suck. I think there's a middle ground too. And I think everything great is going to come when you throw away the perfectionism and you just take the first step and you realize that the first step is not as scary as we thought it was. We always
Hmm.
think it's going to be worse than it is. It's like the analogy of the diving board, right? It's like when you were a little kid, they're like, go jump into the pool. You're like, no. And then you did.
Yeah.
What did you do? You got right back in line and you did it
Jumped
again.
right off again.
I feel like
Yeah.
that is business and that is life. Every time where I've been like, I don't know, it's never as embarrassing as I think. I care more about what I look like than other people care. And I always am so grateful that I at least tried it, even if it ended up being embarrassing or losing me money or not being a good idea. I still am grateful I at least tried.
A
So
1000%. So
yeah.
good, Angie. Hey, if people want to learn more about Soul CBD, where do they go? Where do they go to connect with you? Like, what's next for you? How do we connect with Angie Lee? What's the best way?
Yeah, you guys can head to mysoulcbd.com, at Angie Lee Show on Instagram, Angie Lee Show on Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, wherever you listen to podcasts. And yeah, come say hi on IG, DM me, and we'll see what's next. I have some ideas up my sleeve of comedy or physical products, maybe a book. I don't know. I'm in an interesting phase where I'm sitting with what feels like the most exciting next step. So
And I really love that you do that. Like sometimes you have to just sit in it. You just have to allow yourself to ruminate and be like, what is the next thing for me without the pressure of what's the next thing? So, congratulations on all that you're doing. I always wrap up the show with my question: what does inspired living mean to you?
Ooh. Ooh, I like that. What is inspired living? I think inspired living is intentional living to me in a way. That's what's inspiring to me is people who live with intention, who are intentional about their health, their wellness, their business, their friendships, their life is it's intentional. They're not just doing things to do it. They're not just pretending to be someone just so people like them. I think having intention is so powerful. So yeah.
Yes,
And just being
it
yourself,
is.
right? That's the consensus of today.
Be yourself, own your weird,
Own
ready
your
as a
weird.
lie, and say poop if you need to. That's what I just got to say. Again, Angie, thanks for bringing that out in me. That is something I wasn't planning on. You're a joy to have on the show. It's actually really fun to follow you and to watch you, and you make me laugh. And you know what? Sometimes at the end of the day, we can all take ourselves a little too seriously. So I appreciate the reprieve and the giggle every now and then. And just wish you all the world of success. And again, go to mysoulcbd.com. I'm excited to get my gummies and try them out. And stay connected with Angie. Like I said, she's super fun to follow. And we look forward to all that is ahead of you.
Yay. Oh, thank you so much. This was so fun.
Awesome. All right, we'll talk soon. You've just heard another uplifting episode of Inspired Living with Keri Murphy, the podcast. I hope you loved it. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. And if you'd like to know more about Inspired Living or to get your hands on many of our awesome free resources, such as the Be Studio Ready Guide, simply visit us at inspiredliving.tv/podcast. Remember, your vision is your destiny, and we're here to help you bring it to life. Join me again next week for another extraordinary episode.